All right, it is 5 o'clock. I will call the meeting of the Campus Reconfiguration Committee to order. And would ask the
This meeting is being recorded.
That's okay.
Caro,
Here.
Manning, Glassbrenner, Turk,
Here.
Frank,
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
You applied for a quorum, sir.
Manning's here.
All right, so this meeting was properly noticed. Very good, we're in compliance with the open meetings law. I would entertain a motion to approve our 14-point agenda. Motion by Frank, second by Glassbrenner to approve the agenda as presented before us. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? We also have minutes from our last meeting, which was February 12th. Anybody have corrections or issues with those minutes as they've been shared? If not, the chair will declare them to be approved as presented. Item 6 on the agenda, public comment. Do we have members here from the public who wish to comment? Okay, in the back first.
Yeah, Richard Lowe.
Yes.
Quick question. I'm here to talk about the pianos. Should I be talking here?
We have an item on the agenda for assessment of specialized items. That would fall under that.
Okay, so I can talk then?
Well, the board will be talking then. We could certainly entertain comments in that specific arena, so,
Okay.
yes.
So I'll wait.
Larry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to share some information with you on the agenda number 10, the possible MOU between the school district and the county on use of the campus gym. As a new county board member, I was assigned to the Simons Natatorium Board. And I've been to 2 meetings so far, January and February this year. It's an interesting assignment that the makeup of the board is 2 city aldermen, the mayor, 2 county board members, and members of the Simons Foundation, an independent 501c3 along with citizen members. At the first meeting in January, I was asked about the county's discussions with the high school about the gym. I had no information on that, and there was a lot of good questions. It also became apparent that meeting that Simons had not expressed to the Reconfiguration Committee or the county board that they had an interest in having the gym become a part of Simons and be managers. Now, their interest stemmed from the fact that their membership is growing, the need for space is clear, and the fact that they could possibly cover some monthly utility and maintenance costs out of increased revenue is also a possibility. So at that meeting, we made sure that the request for managing the gym be made to the Reconfiguration County Board. Alan Linz did that last meeting along with the presentation of the full board in committee. At the second meeting I attended, the school district's interest in the gym came up again. Simons staff, the district superintendent, and city's representatives had met earlier that day, I guess. No school district was present at that meeting that I was at, but what came up was the idea that someone from the school would have the idea that they'd be interested in owning the gym. Now the reaction, but that hadn't gone before the school board as it had. Right, so the reaction to that idea was immediate. You could feel some tension in the room. So as I listened, I thought, whoa, hold on, this is the stuff that gossip and rumors are made of. Without a good process, this could easily become school district versus Simons. In other words, it could become Richland rant and chant. It could easily cause division. So I just wanted to flag that and then say 2 things came out of that meeting. One was a formal invitation to the school district to come to the next meeting to have a discussion face-to-face in the interest of parties together to talk. And the second was that Simons staff was directed to talk with the county administrator about using the gym for programming. That was the last meeting. The next meeting's coming up, and we'll hear a report on both those initiatives. Since that last natatorium board meeting in February, the Reconfiguration Committee met and heard 3 suggestions from venture architects for the future of the gym. The $1.9 billion option, the $3 million plus option, and the tear down new metal option. That is all new information that either the school district or the natatorium board is aware. So the county board is looking to develop an ethics committee, along with that some policy and guidelines. My thought is that one of the policies or guidelines will say something like, when the question that when decisions are made, have all the interested parties in the issue been involved and the voices possibly heard? In this particular case, the county gym should be talked about with students, school district, and the auditorium board, and citizens as well. So in light of all that, two quick thoughts.
You got about 30 seconds left.
Yep. The first is to hold off on signing of an agreement with the school district until such a time all the parties have been informed. And the intent here is to move away from any possible innuendo, divisiveness, rumor, or tension between the city, the county, and the school. The second is to go ahead with the signing, but change one of the MOU parties to Simon's Recreation Complex as the managing partner. Either of those options could be accomplished easily. All the parties are here. I think there's a high degree of interest.
You got your 3 minutes.
I'm good.
Thank you. Anybody else with comment? Anybody online have comment?
Dave,
Anybody else?
I'm not sure if I can talk now or if I should wait until the MOU comes up.
We will be talking about the MOU item 10 on the agenda, so.
I can just talk now then, real quick.
Okay.
Chief Deputy Wallace from the Sheriff's Department. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the whole facility at the campus. I know the Sheriff's Department has asked to use the buildings over there for training several times, and last time I've heard from the sheriff before he took and left for vacation is that we haven't received a response back about using those buildings for training. We don't need heat, we don't need water. We're using them for special response training, canine training, trainings that are active shooters, and any type of major incident type trainings. We don't have a lot of access to buildings to do these type of trainings in, and the campus being possibly tear down buildings would be the perfect resources that we could use at the Sheriff's Department to prepare ourselves for any type of situation that might happen. Also, along with the gymnasium, I know back when Candace was here, several of the deputies voiced interest in using the campus in the morning to play basketball or some other type of physical activity, so they're not driving all the way up to Kickapoo where we have no reason to use their gymnasium, but we're getting access into that gym. So I would just like the committee to, consider those both for training and for our deputies to use those facilities to better themselves, since we are, members of the county and work for the county. That's all I have to say.
Your comments. Anyone else for public comment? All right, hearing none, we will move on to reports. 7A, campus status update. We didn't have our meeting last time because we didn't get a quorum together, so we haven't really talked about what's going on out there. We did have a water leak situation. Randy, you want to go over what's the status of
So
that?
we were in Copper Top, and we found a water leak when we were doing a walkthrough with the auction service. We had a water leak in the band room, and we're able to, just last week we got that fixed now. We got the valve shut off. It was a leak up in the boiler room coming down through the ceiling or through a drain. The drain is leaking. So we got the valve fixed. The only problem is the pump was bad. We got prices on that, so it's going to be a pretty expensive fix, probably in the tune of $10,000 to get the pump all fixed and operational. So
And that pump
those numbers
circulates
will be
the warm
coming.
water for heating.
Yep, and that's what feeds the water for the air handlers in that half of the building. So that will be coming to the committee, property committee for approval. So other than that, everything else is so far running, except for that major issue, but so.
Any damage to anything out there?
No, just a ceiling tile in the band room.
So is there heat out there now?
Yes, there's 2 other pumps that are running, and that's where we got the doors all opened up so that heat is passing through. So, but with the temperatures outside, we're safer now. So, but if it gets drastically cold, we're gonna run into an issue.
There's no sense of emergency to address it right this second. Everything's up in the air with the village investing that kind of money into it. Coming into warm weather buys us time to effectively make the decision.
Very good, thank you.
So otherwise, everything else physically out there is pretty much status quo. Pretty soon we'll probably have to be mowing grass.
Pardon?
Said pretty soon we'll probably have to be mowing grass.
Don't even go there. That's another.
It could be the same week, you plow snow on Monday and mow grass on Thursday. As far as other items we've been working on, we've had contact periodically with State Representative Tony Kurtz, who did take a walk through the campus and see the condition of the buildings and all the materials that the UW system left behind. He did have some conversation with Jay Rothman from the UW system, and we have been given a contact person for our Corp Council to talk to. They are working on making their connection. Corp Council said that his response from the individual he reached out to was very positive. The individual seemed motivated to talk to him. So hopefully we can work something out with them to get us some assistance in getting the contents of the building cleaned out and taken care of. Our initial thought was to have an auctioneer do it. What we learned as we walked through with the auctioneers, because of the volume of stuff out there, it would probably be a building by building process to have an auction for each building that would stretch out over as many months as you have buildings out there. And would be very labor intensive. The auctioneer would be willing to inventory the items, group them together in lots, put them online for an online auction. We would have to provide somebody for an inspection day, people that wanted to come and physically look at things, and then a couple days for pickup of the items. And they would do it on a percentage basis most likely, so it wouldn't require a commitment of finances from the county to get it done, but it's not going to be something that generates lots and lots of money for us. And again, the time factor of it would be challenging. So if we can get back with UW system and come up with maybe an alternative method of giving the county some time to get what they want out of there, and then maybe they come back in and get everything else out of the way so we have clean vacant buildings to start with. We'll see if we can work something like that out. But that's, again, we're still waiting for formal connection between Corp Council and their representative to see where we stand. Factor we have working in our favor, it's state budget time, and UW has a pretty significant budget request before the legislature, so that might be some motivation for them to be cooperative. We'll see. Other than that, anything else?
I think that's
On the status? Second item under reports is Venture Architects update. I don't believe they're with us tonight. Nothing new to report really. They've been looking at different possibilities related to our other space needs, things that we've been discussing. We went through the process of prioritizing what our biggest things were with them, and that being the jail and the courthouse space, trying to come up with ways to address the big needs in those areas that are pretty critical. So that's what they've been devoting energy to, is figuring out what possibilities are. At some point, and it may be a couple months yet, we'd probably want to have some kind of public meeting and talk with folks about what our realistic options might be. We've already established that building a brand new county all-encompassing facility is well beyond our budgetary capacity. So what could we do in the name of coming up with a plan that probably stretches out over a couple of decades to address all the space needs the county has long-term? So hopefully through more discussions in a couple months, we might have some broad terms we can talk to the public about and say, well, we could go this route, we could go this route, that kind of thing. That's where we stand right now with Venture. Any questions on either of those from the committee?
So at the last county board meeting, we had the discussion that this committee would be reviewing and looking over the space needs study. That is now our scope.
We have been instructed to keep going, so.
Just want to make sure that's clear to everybody.
We brought it back to the full board and got no direction to the contrary, so.
All right, great.
We will continue forward and keep bringing our findings and stuff back to the full board.
Okay.
Other questions? All right, then let's move on to item 8, which is discussion and possible action on assessment of specialized items in the campus buildings. This comes out from requests from gentlemen we have here in the room with us and a couple of other folks who have contacted us who have knowledge related to some of the very specialized items. Could be the piano in case of Brandon Federley, and science lab equipment and things that are out there that we don't have expertise in. And so as we try to figure out what we want or what to do with items, it seemed like it might be a good idea to consult the expertise of these individuals to give us a better idea of what we're dealing with. what values might be, what investments might need to be made to realize whatever value those items have. One example would be there are these chemical fume hoods in the science labs, which if you look at them, you think, why that would have value. What we found out from our consultants was, by the time you look at the labor cost of removing it from its present location and then reinstalling it at a different location, it's cheaper to buy a new one. So the salvage value is not that great as we thought it might be. That's just one example, but by cooperating with these folks, we're hopeful that maybe we can get a better idea. Are there more that have contacted us than just those two?
I have not heard from anyone else.
Okay. But if there were somebody else that had that specialized expertise, you know, we'd certainly be interested. Committee members, what are your thoughts?
So I would like to see that I think there are definitely some items out there that could be used throughout the community and service areas and people that I would rather see it go there than obviously be back to UW or wherever. And if we end up with an auction, you know, that's kind of a different matter. So I would definitely think I'd like to see those items identified first of all. Let's clarify what they are so we know what we're working with. I think step 2 of that then would be, let's see what the value of what the value is, and what the value is if there's anything that needs to be done to get them moved or used, because I think there may be some items out there that may have value, but as you said, to move them or do anything with them defeats the purpose. How we're going to do that, I guess we're going to have people come up and meet with a contact person and pick a day where those items can be looked at, would be my thought.
Brandon Federley said that he would organize school districts to come in to look at the science stuff.
Okay, we're looking for one person to tell us what we're dealing with. We're not talking about bringing in groups of people to pick over stuff.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
the direction is that, so to help us start to field these calls, so when we have individuals coming to say, I know about the pianos, or I know about like the taxidermy, which is a different kind of thing, but those specialized things, right, that the administrator then has some direction on how you'd like those things, you know, fielded, because we've not been letting anyone go in there, we've really been constricting access just because we don't know what's happening. So that's the direction that an administrator is going to need, is when these people are calling, how do you want those responses to be? Do you want us to, you know, take people out there, look at that, you know, jot down the notes on what they feel like is out there, and then we keep track of that, we bring that back to the board and say, okay, individual, whoever came out to look at this, here's what they told us, and then you can all tell us to go forward. I think that's the direction we need, because I'm, you know, not as many calls, but there's calls that come in about this item and that item and that, and those people have just been kind of told to just hold up until we have a process. So that's the direction that I would like to have from you guys as a committee, is how do you want me to field those calls if we're looking at starting to now assess these things that we call specialized items, what have you. I mean,
right, and I think it should be calls that are identifying specialized items. I don't want someone calling and saying, hey, I want to see what's out there.
I agree.
Because that is a time consumption thing that is not manageable for out there. But I think specialized items, I think a contact person to call, and then someone to go out there with that person or individual, take that information, jot that information, and have that resource. And from that aspect, I understand as your position is very busy. I'm not sure who else can do that. I'd be happy to do that piece of it, or help with that, just because I know it's a time constraint.
Josh and I have been coordinating that. I think Josh and I can coordinate some of those times with the assistance of Randy too, if you'll be willing to go out there with us, friend. I think the three of us could manage, you know, the time to make that work. So if that's the direction you would like me to take, then that's the direction we will take with specialized specific items. So if someone calls to say, I want to look at all the props out there, this is not one of those specialized items, right? We're looking at fixtures in the building, things like hoods or whatever, correct? That's the direction we're going, because I just
we have to identify.
Yeah, because otherwise I'm going to get 50 million calls about looking at everything, so.
Some of the other items I can think of are
Yeah.
the instruments.
Yes, correct, yes.
I mean,
There's a
instruments
room
that
full.
are out there.
Yes.
And we already know that Mr. Lowe's got a good interest and knowledge of the piano, so we're already up to those items. As you work your way around in that building, there's, to me, the music, sheet music, I don't know if that's specialized, I don't think so, but
So
other than that.
I guess I will ask then for clarification, because I know that there are some theater groups that are interested in seeing what's behind the costume doors.
That's correct.
So is that a costume connection where people can go back there and see what there is? Or is that something we take pictures of and say, here's what costumes are?
That's something that, okay, let's say we went to an auction with that stuff. Here's the contents of the room. You bid on the contents of the whole
Right.
room and you take the whole thing.
Touche.
Because because there's thousands of individual pieces in there.
Take you weeks to get through that.
Yeah.
I agree, totally. That's why I'm bringing this up, because it is such a
And-
massive.
If we're just gonna clarify specialized items, I would say like instruments would be one,
Yep.
science supplies.
Yep, like there's
Science
a bunch of
equipment.
microscopes and things
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
The telescopes, there's 7 or
Telescopes,
8
that's a
of
good
those.
example.
So, yeah, that's what I was wondering, is there another like field of education that had a lot of equipment?
There's a ton of lab stuff out there. I think you hit it on that head. Ingrid,
Science
with the lab
equipment.
science.
But I know I went into one room, now this was a long time ago, where there was all the taxidermy, but I thought there was a lot of other collections of things, like rocks and.
There's
some geology specimens.
Drawers and
Yeah.
drawers and drawers. of
Yeah.
So that would be like, there'd be some specimens and things, I think, as well.
Probably
So
some out there too, I would assume.
I don't know if that's something we want to have.
And I don't know if it has value to
Right.
anybody or, maybe someone who is science expert in that field can tell us, okay, this is what this is and this is who could use it. Apparently Platteville didn't want it, so.
You did say, I believe, that UW did dispose of all the chemicals, correct, in the science lab? Okay.
All the hazardous chemicals, yes.
So we can feel those things and we will stick to very specialized items, that this is not going to, I guess the moral of the story is that we're not going to open up the campus to let droves and droves of people through, because one, there's no bandwidth to do that realistically. There's not bandwidth for us to do that. But the point of this is to really kind of ferret out that specialized items that, well, the three of us can talk, and if we have a question about how we define specialized, I will reach out to the committee and say, is this specialized enough for you or not? But I think it's pretty, the items that are mentioned are a large bulk of what's out there.
What about the library?
I don't know that there's specialized items, there's a lot
Well,
of
not
books.
specialized, but there's a lot of books.
There's
Is that
a ton of
something where we
books,
want to
yes.
invite, for example, the library to come
I
in and
am
look at it?
actually, we talked and I'm actually having the local library director come down and take a look at it for us.
Okay. And the IT equipment, I assume our IT staff has already looked at all of
They've
that?
looked at that, we can have them look at it again, but there's, adjacent to the library, there's a room with wires upon wires
Yes.
upon cables and
Quantity, but not
cords.
quality.
Right, right.
And there are many throughout the whole facility, many monitors and keyboards and mice and things like that that were just left laying.
Right.
And it is, without having an IT person there, I'm not sure how usable any, I know the computers are all like Windows 7 vintage. So
But
they're,
with the computers, I would identify that we do not know the contents that are
Correct,
on
that
the
is
hard
also
drives,
true. Yes.
because they were basically turned off, like shut down for the
Yes.
day and walked away
Yes.
from. So I'd be hesitant to allow people
right.
onto those systems.
Agreed.
And most likely with that technology stuff, you're looking at recycling, and for the businesses that do that, that would typically involve a charge, so.
Well, unless UW is going to be part of the cleanup.
That's-
Well, and
yeah,
that's
exactly.
part of those, yes, those conversations that are.
Sorry.
Okay.
So Jason was just out there the other day from MIS, and he marked all the ones that he could find of monitors and stuff that were, because Marilyn was out there before,
Yeah.
she worked there, and she took him to the ones that she knew that were good piece of equipment.
Okay.
So he's already got those tagged and marked
Good.
to remove out of there.
Okay.
A majority of the other stuff is gonna be scrap. So
That's true.
he's already gone through and marked some stuff already that we have removed.
And, as we said in a previous meeting, that's what we've been doing so far. If there's something the county can use, we'll take it and use it. We haven't let other people come in and start taking over stuff. Ingrid?
The only other thing I was thinking of a question on was the kitchen. Is there anything in there that,
There are things in there that I would deem as specialized items that other kitchens may want, like the time butcher block tables or
Yeah.
cooking.
We had discussed,
Stainless.
you know.
yeah, we had discussed letting Pine Valley come in and see if there's anything they could use at their operation. But otherwise, other than that, yeah, then it would be, some of it's more
Some
vintage
equipment.
than others, but that's,
Yeah. But there's a fair amount, there's a fair amount of stuff there, so
Yes.
that's a good category.
yep.
How, do you want us to specify how people get a hold of you for this process? Should we create a form for this? What does this look like to
I
make
think it
sure?
would,
we get clear
If you
communication.
feel comfortable, phone call or email to the administrator?
Yeah, phone call or
Is that
email, I
acceptable?
think, so that's where we do it. And then we can arrange, we can come up with a little form of some sort quick and track it. Yeah, I mean, it won't be anything special, but it'll be good
No,
to
but-
get the information to share it with you all when we get it, so. Yeah, we can do that.
Any other questions or thoughts on the process we're outlining here for the committee?
That's a good starting point.
Yeah.
We got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think we need a resolution or anything on that.
No,
We've got
we
direction
have
from the
directives, so we
administrators.
know how we'll proceed.
All right, item number 9, oversight of county, I'm sorry, go ahead.
May I butt in?
Oh, yep, go ahead before we start the next item.
I spent a lot of time on this piano thing, time
Yep.
and expense. My ideal here is to look at these pianos and see where we can do some public good. The Baldwin 7-footer, for example, is a semi-concert grand. If it's in any kind of condition or repairable, it could be used at the school in the auditorium. There's, 3 or 4 other pianos different schools could use. I've requested permission through an email to Derek. I want to bring along, and he's willing to do an expert piano tuner technician that can assist in the inspection, as well as I have connections and good relationship with people at Farley's House of Piano in Madison who rebuilds pianos and customizes them for high-level pros. So I can bring all that technical expertise to bear. It may take a couple, 3 hours to go through all of that, but I guess I caution people, there's always this joke about never accept a free piano, because they're invariably something that should be in the dumpster. But if we can save these, and I did play that Baldwin a couple of years ago, actually in March, and it has some potential, but I need to take some pictures of it, we need to take some measurements, really get down under and see and inspect every one of them to see if, number one, they're worth anything, are they worth rebuilding, at what cost. There's a lot of roadblocks here. I bet it's on the other side, it just sounds like Platteville just kind of handed you a bunch of stuff and said, here's our trash, take care of it.
Well, in some cases, I think that's true. In other cases, that probably was just stuff they didn't know what to do with.
But
And so the kind of information you're talking about is what we're looking to gather.
I would like to get moving on it, and I would request permission to get moving on it, if that's possible.
Derek has your information because you've reached out to him before, so we'll
And I've talked to Randy too, so, yeah, we can
work
do it.
on
I think-
facilitating.
I know more than the average person, but I've got 2 real experts that I can draw on, so.
That's good, and that's the level of knowledge we need to really understand those. It's a very complex device, so. Thank you. All right, now item number 9, discussion and possible action, oversight of county tennis court, soccer field, and walking trails. As we've been talking about, what's going to happen with the campus property. Well, we have the tennis courts, walking trails, soccer fields that are out there. Our intent was to make it clear, okay, these are part of Simons. They go with Simons. And so we wanted to, I think we have a draft resolution.
It's up there.
It's up there. To officially designate those as part of Simons. So if something else goes on with the rest of the campus property, it is very clear those stay with Simons. And so that's the intent of the resolution. You can see it up there. Committee members, what are your thoughts on this? Mr. Carroll.
A while back, there was some kind of encumbrance on that area. Can you refresh our memory on that?
That would be the restrictions on the usage of the tennis and basketball courts property. Mike, can you refresh us on that?
So the tennis and basketball courts were funded by a grant, 87, I can't remember what year it was, back in the 80s. So it's a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. Those grants, they're required, once you get a grant, those are forever, basically. So the county has to provide those tennis courts, tennis and basketball courts. They have to be accessible to the public, they have to be free and open to the public, basically forever. The only way to get rid of them are to replace the value of those in another park, in another public access place. Those are the requirements from the federal and state government for these grants. So they can be transferred to the city, and it can be run as a city park. It can be kept as a county park. It has to be open for the public, so we can't lock the gates and say that only Simons members get in there, because it has to be open for the public, because it was basically taxes that were used for these grants. So we're kind of locked into it that way.
So I guess my point is, by us doing that, does that fall afoul of that encumbrance, or are we saying that they would then be the ones that would maintain it open to the public?
Yeah, well, it's still, I mean, it still would be owned by the county, obviously. We'd have to keep it open for the public, and we'd have to, eventually we have to do some fundraising to get them fixed up again anyway, because right now they're not really in usable shape. We do have the availability. I did talk to the grant manager, and we are eligible for a 50% grant on those to refurbish those in the pickleball courts. So, and we'll actually get an extra point on that because we have been awarded a grant in the past. So we do have a pretty good chance of getting a 50% grant. We have to come up with the other 50%. But we've talked to the local pickleball club. They're interested in possibly investing some into it. The foundation may be willing to doing a little bit on it. We've talked some with the school district, with some of their teachers there. They're interested. They like to use it for FIAD, so they're interested in converting them to pickleball courts and using it. I doubt Steve has money to give us, but like everyone else, I think he's struggling with that too. So it's going to be a fundraising capital campaign, donation campaign, but.
And that will be something important because the condition they're in is not usable really moving forward, correct?
Yeah, and part of the grant requirement is that they do have to be attractive and open for the public. Right now they're not, so regardless if you have Simons manage it, if you give it to the city and the city manages it at the park, you manage it at the park, it does have to be fixed up at some point. And again, we can do a fundraising campaign for it, so it doesn't have to rest on the taxpayers, but we do have to address it.
And the basketball courts are currently being used, right?
Yep, basketball courts are being used quite a bit now with the weather getting nicer as well. Basketball courts aren't in as bad a shape, but the tennis courts, there's a lot of areas that are heaving, the foundation's heaving, there's a lot of slip areas, trip areas, so that's why we've got it locked.
Supervisor Glassberg.
Basketball courts are not specifically listed in here.
I think it's considered part of the tennis courts.
Is it? Okay. And then my second question is, the walking trails, is that in a portion that we were still debating what we're doing with that part of the property?
This would take that out of the debate.
That's why I'm asking.
And
Is that
preserve it
something
long-term.
how much area does that cover?
I'm not sure what the acreage footprint of that trail system is. Sure.
I would say that the trails are up on the hill, basically, really not a very buildable spot.
Without major excavation.
Yeah, you would have to, so I don't think there's a real
So
big
how much,
consideration.
because there is acreage beyond that, correct, that was being leased to a farm?
It is active farmland right now by lease, yes.
And so that's separate from that portion?
It's up behind that.
Up behind
My
it,
understanding,
okay.
I've not walked on it, to be sure.
It's pretty much through the woods.
It
is. Over towards the school.
And Mike, there was some maintenance done on the trail system?
Yeah, I think, Josh, did you guys do it?
Yeah, it was taken care of last year.
Yeah, we removed a bunch of trees that were down, and we also been keeping it maintained and mowed as well.
Yeah, and there have been people up there using it as the weather's gotten nicer too, quite a bit.
Yes, Mr. Carroll.
So again, in terms of this, call it a transfer or whatever, would then, who would be mowing and doing that kind of thing? Us or?
The county would be, or the county-city joint operation would be, because it's under control of Simons, which is really no different than what's happening now.
Okay.
It would just preserve the usability of that and open it up for extra programming potentially. I will say personally, I'd like to see something special done with it. I would like to name that trail in honor of the late Marty Brewer as a memorial to him. Marty had mentioned on multiple occasions he thought it would be cool to have a park out there on that hill up above Simons. Well, it's not exactly a park, but it's definitely using that hill territory.
And recreational trails grants are a little better than the court grants. We can get an 80% grant for any trail work that we do. So if we add signage, if we do anything down the road, we can get an 80% grant to do anything upgrades for those trails.
Mr. Frank.
So this document talks about the mowing that would be taken care of by the joint effort between the city and the county, correct? Because that's the soccer fields. The question just came up that Carol.
You're referring to the resolution?
The resolution, I'm sorry, yeah. So the resolution, you mentioned that the mowing will be done then by Simons and the city, not by, it's currently then being done by the county?
I would anticipate, however it's getting done now, will continue to get done, because it's under our control as it is right now. We're just looking to preserve it to be.
The trails are being done by
Yeah.
the county.
Yes, correct. Yes, right.
But not the soccer, well, the soccer field last year
Soccer field was done by the county.
Right.
Are you saying in this resolution? Because it doesn't specify.
I know it does.
It does not specify in the resolution because a lot of the work.
When we get to the next item, I think there's language in that about
Yes.
mowing the soccer.
Exactly, that's why my question is, we're talking about two different people. The next resolution talks about somebody doing it, but we're also talking about somebody else doing it. So that's why I'm
Talking
trying to.
specifically about the trails, I guess, in this discussion. Obviously, Simons mows their own yard, so. that's-
Right. The trails would be maintained year-round for the county until determined different.
Yep. And our intent would be, okay, it's considered part of Simons, so whatever happens with Simons also encompasses the tennis courts, the trails, everything.
So I think we're going to have a conflict between the two resolutions because this one's talking about the county's tennis courts, soccer field, and walking trails will then be under the supervision of Simons. But we're going to then tell Simons that if we do an MOU with the school district, that we are then going to have them mow it. It's no longer under their supervision.
Where we would get to is the
Well,
school
it
district and
doesn't,
Simons
but-
talking together about who's using the soccer field. Presently, Simons uses it to dump pool water in, so, which could be a disadvantage if you've got a soccer match going on or something, but, so I wouldn't anticipate that there's a direct collision there.
Right, I just want to make sure that as we're giving, we're telling them to oversee the whole project, but then the next step, we're going to say, we're telling you how to oversee it.
We're telling them it's part of Simons, and if we have an MOU with the school district to use the soccer field and they agree to mow it in exchange for using it, well, then Simons doesn't have to worry about mowing it.
Okay, that's fine, just want to make sure we're.
Yeah, the resolution didn't go into the logistics that deep,
Yeah.
really.
Then the Simons need to be a part of the MOU,
Simons is the city and county, so.
I guess.
Yeah, it's
Fair,
kind of split, so.
Okay.
Any other questions or thoughts on the resolution that we were looking to send to county board? If not, we'd be looking for a motion from the committee.
Williamson would so move.
Motion from Mr. Williamson, looking for a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Manning on the resolution to designate the trails, the tennis and basketball courts, and the soccer field all to be part of Simons Recreation Complex. Any further discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just
Yes, go
looking
ahead.
at the language on the resolution. So it says, under the now therefore be resolved, it's talking about oversight and responsibilities. But in your language just now, you're saying that you're making it a part of Simons. I feel like that's not what this is saying.
This is how the core council worded it. It's-
No, Mike did not word this. This
Okay.
is just, in the discussions that we had, we were saying we were going to give oversight and then the associated responsibility of that to Simon. So we can wordsmith this a little more. That's just how it was
I
kind
don't
of discussed
necessarily
in
want it
committee.
wordsmith.
So-
I mean, I feel like you're saying like, we can, if we do this, then we can never annex any of that again. And so
Well,
I don't.
if it's Simons, it's under the county owns the property, so if we undo it someday, we could.
So then I guess what is the point of doing this?
The point is to designate this grouping all is part of Simons. So whatever happens with the rest of the property, this hunk is Simons.
But that's not what it says. It just says the oversight.
Giving them oversight
I'm not
and
trying to be
associated
facetious,
responsibilities, then it's theirs, in my mind. That's,
Okay.
Does the city need to be a part of this understanding possibly?
I talked to the mayor, he didn't indicate any opposition, but
Will they have to also have a similar resolution? Because,
I don't think so, because it's, while the city participates jointly in the operation and we share responsibility for capital things, the county is the property owner.
And
So,
the county does the property maintenance to it as well.
yeah,
It does.
So the city would be a separate.
right. If we were asking city parks to come in and mow or something like that, then yes, absolutely, they have to.
I think the intent was to just have this formally stated or clarified for, and maybe that didn't work as the intent of this resolution, perhaps it didn't, but I think that was it was just to make that statement to this committee.
Well, then people know where to go to if there's a question.
True.
Something comes up on this area, I guess, go to Simons and contact them.
And it is kind of a wonky thing because we already own, like, the county already owns part of this, so it's like redesignating stuff that's partially is ours, really. So
Yes, and it is.
It's
We
kind
own
of
the
weird to
trails,
do
so.
that. Yeah.
We're assigning responsibility to it.
And that was really kind of just the point of that. So.
further discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you for the discussion.
Send that on to the full county board tonight. That brings us to item 10, discussion and possible action, MOU between the Richland School District and Richland County for the use of the gym at the campus. And the MOU was included in the packet. This was drafted by Corp Council. It was agreed to by the schools already. We did have a couple of items that you and Corp Council, was it?
Yeah, I thought Mike was going to be present for this. Josh, is that you?
I think my question was he was supposed to be present, but we can actually make our statements publicly known as such.
All right, so there were a couple of things we wanted to clarify before we signed off on it, and we got that set, so I'll let you guys fill it in.
Okay, so you have the agreement up there. Let me find my notes here. Sorry, I don't want to look unprepared, but I thought Attorney Wendell was going to be here to review this stuff. So one of the first items we had was just to really say that item number 1 on here refers to the Richland School District Facility Use Agreement. So because the school district would already have this mechanism in place to use the facilities, the school district's going to manage the rentals for this, if you will, or manage the use of this through that facility use agreement, which has the mechanism for people to reserve the gym. So that doesn't give them exclusive use. They already have the mechanism in place to reserve the building or to book the building. So we will use that method. Is that correct, Mr. Board?
That's correct.
Does that
That's
sound good?
And that use agreement's in place already with the city for the community center gymnasium, for example.
One more time?
The city already participates with you in that. As a user, we've used the community center gymnasium, and we've also used the school gymnasium for a church league, and we were able to book that all through the city because they have this cooperative agreement with you.
Correct. The city can also book through there. Yes.
Yep. And so it facilitates public access to the facilities.
Correct.
So, Mr. Chair, just to clarify,
Yes.
I was looking at the correspondence that's included in our packet.
Yeah.
So this MOU would not preclude other community groups from also utilizing it?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
It's just they have the.
Or assignments itself?
Correct.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
You're.
Basically, they can see the same calendar, the city, the school, so you call either one to try set up a use.
That was going to be my next question. It's not in the MOU. Any costs associated with this?
Mr. Board, what kind of costs do they typically look at for?
Yeah, we would look at our normal rental agreements, okay, for most organizations, private organizations, individuals, things like that. A group like Simon's, we would treat as what we would call a sanctioned group, which means there's no facility rental fee or anything like that. The only fee that a sanctioned group could potentially incur is if they're required additional maintenance. Okay, somebody needs maintenance or custodial crew during a time when they don't typically work. They may have an hourly fee. If they leave a mess and we've got to spend a bunch of money clean it up. It'd be very similar to if the city's using a school district gym, any group that would be sanctioned. Again, we would have the Simons be a sanctioned group. We can jump through those hoops on our end. But yet, Timmy Smith's father that wants to have a birthday party in the gym, we would charge them a rental fee accordingly. And we just have the resource in place, the ability for people to book online, see the calendar, which is why we thought that would be the smoothest, as opposed to going to two different places and potentially double booking.
Mr. Carroll.
So we're discussing this before it's actually on the table, right?
This is a committee. I think it's okay to do that.
Yeah, all right, so I'll keep going.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
So there's been some discussion between the school district and who?
Well, it was our corp council initially drafting the agreement. We were aware of the request, and is this based on a previous one that was in place with UW System? Am I remembering right?
I'm not sure about that. I know
Okay.
that this is, there's been a version of this around for a little while too, so this was started or
Is something
attempted.
Candace worked on?
What's that, Bob?
Was this something Candace worked on? Was this her?
No, I talking with Laura, she worked with UW.
May I give a little background?
Yeah.
Yes,
The
please.
school district and the county and campus, college, have always had a verbal MOU in place for a decade or more. That all came to a screeching halt when the campus said, or the UW system said they were pulling out. At that point, we were told we have to wait until July 1 when the county officially takes that over, and we've been working on trying to get something in place again ever since then. So this is really not a new MOU. It's a new MOU, but the concept has been around for, my understanding is close to a decade.
The document is new, the concept has been around a
It
while.
was all verbal prior to this?
No one has found an MOU, but
It was all verbal.
yeah.
Mr. Carroll, go ahead.
So when this was discussed between our corp council and the district, was Simons involved in that discussion?
I don't believe so.
I'm just concerned that there's an obvious, to me anyway, synergy of all people working together to get the maximum use out of this gym. It's not really well defined in this document. Utility costs, all those kinds of things. I mean, exactly what are we permitting or agreeing to here? I think, Mike's not here to ask legal questions. I'm concerned about signing off on this till those kind of things are pinned down.
Right. As far as legal concerns, Mike didn't share any with us that he had.
No, but we'll have questions now that he would be the one to ask.
Okay. I know there is no specificity in the agreement of utility costs, so the county would continue to bear the utility costs,
It
but it
should
does
say
talk
that.
about maintenance.
Actually,
The
it
MOU
does
say
say
that.
that.
Yeah.
The county shall provide,
Yep.
so,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Number 5.
Yes.
And we're okay with that?
Well, that's why we're
That's
bringing
part of the
it.
MOU.
That's, yeah. Mr. Frank. go ahead.
So the facility, I mean, it's a wonderful facility, a lot of good possibilities for use. If there's a rental on this, where does that money go? What's the funding for that? Does that go to the school district? Is it shared with the county? Is it?
So I think that is a fair question, because if we're still providing utilities and they're providing, I guess, maintenance of it.
We're providing
We're
the
doing
means.
it.
Okay, so they're providing is just.
They're providing
vacuuming and
custodial.
temp,
Janitorial,
or-
custodial, yeah.
So, when you guys, I guess the question would be, with your similar agreement to the city and the use of those facilities, how is that worked out when there's rental fees? Do you guys get a portion of it? Do you get?
We don't allow a private individual to book, let me rephrase that. If a private individual books through us, then we get the proceeds. If they book it through the city gets the proceeds, and then they book the facility through the school district, and then there's an agreement there that we don't charge the city.
Okay.
However, with that being said, I don't know that there are many cases where private individuals go to the city to book the school facilities. They would go directly to the school to book those.
Okay. Keep the proceeds.
And how are we looking at people would book this? What is the procedure?
Well, the anticipation was with the school district having the infrastructure, that would be their point of booking it for a community purpose.
At our expense, and lack of income.
Yeah, item number 5 in the contract, in the MOU, you guys, it says utilities equipment and outlines that the county shall provide electricity, water, sewer, heat, and other necessary utilities for the gymnasium building, and then also ensure access to scoreboard control panels and other accessories needed for conducting normal events in the gymnasium. That is
And those pieces are presently in place out there, so
Mhm.
just saying we'll give access to it.
Mhm.
Mr. Gill?
Do we have a cost estimate for the utilities, or what that might cost with a vacant building versus a building that's being used?
I don't think that's information.
No idea?
We do not have that right now, no.
Is that a separate system out there at all for electric usage, or is that metered different?
I'm not sure how that's metered with,
Yeah.
so there's 3 buildings on one set, and then there's,
Right.
So, if I could just say,
Yes.
you know, most of this committee has not been present for these kinds of discussions. We have these kinds of questions. It's a little bit hard to feel comfortable then with saying, okay, yes to this MOU where we have multiple questions. Mike isn't here to kind of go over that. I would be in favor of getting a bit more information or having some more discussion and input.
Mr. Carroll?
And we also have the correspondence that was put in our folder that pointing out another possible scenario. So I know Supervisor Engel pointed out this potential for tension, but why not have a potential to work together and figure out something that works for everyone? And this MOU doesn't quite do that. I think it could be drafted to where some mutually agreed situation can make everyone happy and get even more use out of the gym. But this MOU to me does not get us there.
Mr. Frank?
I will say I'm absolutely thrilled that this is starting to happen. The MOU, the communication, that there's usefulness, that there's going to be something there. I'm thrilled to see these pieces coming together. From my position, I want to make sure we're protecting the county, getting the bills paid out there, and finding some way that we can use this to generate some revenue. So I'm not ready to move forward in this until we get some clarification on how we can make that happen, because right now it's going to cost us more to have it open for people.
Sounds like we're looking for a motion to postpone this till our next meeting. Mr. Manning makes the
I can
motion.
second that, and
Second
I also
by
just
Glassbrenner.
want to say, Mr. Board, is that your name?
Correct.
Mentioned there being sanctioned uses such as Simon's, that's not listed in here. I don't know if there's what all community
Being a
units.
sanctioned group is a process with either the school district or the city, and I speak from experience because I work with a sanctioned group and know what that's about. But that's part of their process. That's not necessarily something we were defining in this.
Well, I understand that, but when
Right.
it impacts things that are going to be county, for example, Simon's, it would be helpful to know, I guess.
We have, Mr. Carroll.
So if we do put this on a future agenda, I'd like to also have us see what the actual facility use agreement looks like. It's a document, right?
It's online.
Okay.
Okay, a link to it, and then anything else to help us get the full picture on what's involved.
Just a friendly amendment to bring in Simons into the discussion.
Well, that isn't part of postponing, but that could be something we talk about when we discuss it again.
So I just think the foundation and the staff should be part of it.
Mr. Board, you had your hand up.
If I could just add a couple of things. First of all, the old agreement was always just an agreement between the school and the campus and the county. There was never, the school district is not looking to, ever rent out the county's facilities to private individuals. When the idea of, well, what about Simon's came up, the idea that we have an avenue for them to be able to book through our online booking software and ensure that there aren't double booking, we thought that was a benefit. If this committee has no interest in ever opening it up to private groups other than Simon's, that solves all of the rental problems. We never got down that pathway because, quite honestly, that's more of a headache for us. We're happy to do that as part of being future-focused and solution-based. We're happy to mow and maintain the soccer fields because that field next to it, because we would like to use it for practice facilities as our spring sports are kicking up, which start this week, as we have cross-country and soccer in the fall. And so with that then, in talking to Mr. Wendell, and he did draft this document, there's a 30-day termination clause, okay? So if at any point there's ever a situation where we want to go in a different direction, you have my word, we're going to work with you on that. If you say there's an issue, you can't get in there, okay, we won't get in there. You can't use the fields, we're going to dump water on it, fine. It's not working at all, 30 days, fine. We're going to work with you on that. So, I sense hesitation and I understand And I appreciate the thoroughness and the deliberations that are taking place. But I also think you might be reading a little bit too much into it because there are some safeguards in place and an avenue for places like Simon's and any other entities that you have in mind to be able to start using it sooner rather than later.
So so you have spring events coming up starting soon.
Yesterday.
Yesterday, okay, that's soon. And that field would be useful soon.
The gyms would have been useful this past winter, and the fields would have been useful last fall. So yes.
So coming up here, so.
This has had a drastic impact on this school year because we've been unable to use it.
Right. So with Simon's having the oversight of the soccer field and all that, at this point, couldn't they manage that with you guys to get that outside part going as we resolve what we're trying to do here?
That information is 5 minutes old. So
yeah, exactly. Right. So that's an angle. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so we have before us a motion to postpone to our next meeting and get further information. Hopefully, the Corp Council here with us. Any further discussion on that motion? Or is all in vote?
From having that conversation with the Corp Council and what an MOU is to actually stand for. An MOU is a general agreement. It's a step and something mature just above a verbal agreement. From our conversations, we brought lists of concerns forward. He stated, the Corp Council stated, if we started adding those items into an MOU, you are no longer an MOU, you are a contract. So it's going to change the stipulation of what the county would be going into with the school district. So that's something I would recommend the committee think about, whether you're going to do a general use agreement or you're going to enter into an actual contract. With the MOU, if you did a general agreement, it is also noted if you do it in a public meeting and state the concerns of the county and it's acknowledged by all parties in the public meeting, that's just as good as the contract when it's done underneath the general thing. So just wanted to make the committee aware and maybe chew on that information until we meet again and talk about this farther.
Which to Josh's point is the discussion that we had is we had, and Supervisor Williamson was there, we looked at the MOU, noted that maybe it wasn't clear enough in some of these things, did call Mr. Board back in to just say, hey, after we reviewed this MOU, these were the questions we had, which were actually similar to some of the questions you guys actually had. So we went down this road with him, and instead of altering this MOU, is exactly what Josh said, it was kind of going in a different direction. And I won't repeat what Josh said, but everything Josh said is exactly kind of how this ended up where it is. So we did have these same, I mean, I have my notes here to prove it. We did have those same, I'll say concerns, but again, just because we noticed the MOU was light and had those same questions. So we had the same questions, I understand, but Mr. Board did come in and we did discuss those with him, and you know, we were ready for tonight. So FYI, it wasn't taken lightly by either party, just to make that clear. We did discuss the same things you all brought up now, and a few more actually that we didn't get to. But yeah.
So does an MOU need to be done on this with the county? Could this MOU be done with Simon's? Well, once we've given them oversight? But once we've given them oversight over these items, couldn't that just be dealt with?
But the county would have oversight over top of Simon, so it would technically have to go to the county to.
And we didn't include the gymnasium.
Yeah.
Gymnasium
Right.
and the
Right.
oversight.
It's where it gets a little wonky with the ownership.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Okay, so our motion to postpone is before us. Any further discussion on that motion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Opposed to postpone? But the ayes have it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I had a first by Manning and a second by Glassberger on that motion.
Yes, correct.
And then Mr. Frank is opposed?
Yes.
Correct.
So that does not go to the board.
Does not go to county board of that, so take that off the agenda. We'll pick it up in our next campus reconfiguration committee. All right, so that brings us to item 11, which is discussion and possible action to set that future meeting date. With the nature of things we've had to deal with, we've been meeting more often than once a month, and it would seem to be prudent for us to do that again. So if we look ahead on calendars, just a second, I'll pull mine up here. We look ahead, say, sometime maybe the week after the April 1st election.
That would be great, I would most appreciate that.
I knew that date might be significant for some reason. So if we were to look at,
Too busy or something.
Really random.
oops, I didn't go that far.
Oh, yeah.
No, no.
I'll be done with the election by
Yes.
May.
What do calendars look like for Thursday the 3rd, Friday the 4th, perhaps even Wednesday the 2nd? I don't know if that's,
Thought we were trying to do the week
Yeah, I would
after
prefer
that.
to, can we do the week after,
Week
like
after,
the week of
okay.
the 7th would be good?
all right, so we could do, let's see,
We have executive on the 8th.
executive on the 8th. We could do Wednesday the 9th, Thursday the 10th,
Wednesday, good.
Wednesday the 9th. Anybody else have a problem with that date?
Same time?
And time, do we want to do 5 PM, 5:36, whatever works for folks? 6. Got to vote for 6, anybody else? 6, that work for you, Mr. Carroll? Sure. 6 o'clock, okay with everybody else? Okay, so, and other than the MOU, which we already said to bring forward, what other agenda items would we want to add for that meeting on the 9th?
Do we have to have a separate agenda item for review of anything that was looked at the campus between now?
We can have a report on that.
It's just considered reports,
Yeah, bring a
everything is
report. We
fine.
can bring a report back on anything we've done in that regard in the intervening
Campus
time.
status, whatever, I didn't know
Yep.
if we need to clarify that or not.
Mr. Chair, can you add on there something about the sheriff's department use of the
Yeah.
facilities for training
Okay, we
purposes?
can put that on the
Yep.
agenda.
Do you have a particular building probably that you might would guess?
There's several buildings out there we've used in the past for K-9 and SRT. I mean, really, we've used almost all the buildings out there for training before we were told that we were allowed out there anymore.
And I can vouch, there's no damage when they do their training, so I've been through there and you don't even know they've been in there,
Yeah,
so.
between the classroom and the library, there's all kinds of
Yeah, they've been in there a couple of times.
useful space, yeah. All right.
Right. Other agenda items?
Update from UW system.
Yeah, update on anything that's happened with UW system, we can certainly share as well.
If we don't have something sooner than that.
I think I'll leave the campus update and the venture architects as just kind of
Sure.
standing reports for the
Yeah.
time.
So when is that next meeting?
Be Wednesday, April 9th at 6
I already
PM.
did agree with what I liked.
All right. Correspondence is our next agenda item. There was an item of correspondence in your folders. An individual sent me an email and asked that it be shared with the committee, so it's been shared with you all now. Any other correspondence?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. We talked about future agenda items, so if there are no other future agenda items, then we look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Manning, second by Frank to adjourn until
Yeah.
April 9th at 6 PM. All those in favor? Aye.
No, I
Are adjourned, thank you.
yeah,